Welcome back. This November, we will see more than just the presidential election. Voters across the nation will also determine control of the U.S. Congress. Now, while most watchers assume Republicans are well on their way to retaining control of the House, as Jeannie said, the fight in the Senate could be a much closer one, with just a few races determining which party runs the upper chamber. Now, here in our region, the focus is going to be on some House races, since the only two incumbent members of the Senate would seem to be well on their way to easy re-elections. New York's Chuck Schumer and Connecticut's Richard Blumenthal both being on the ballot this year. But with the presidential election, it is hard to see how either one could be in any real jeopardy of losing their seats. But there could be some tighter House races. Freshman Republican Lee Zeldin on Long Island is already being targeted for his Suffolk County seat. And in the Hudson Valley, the GOP will try once again to unseat Democrat Sean Patrick Maloney. And there could be some drama in the Mid-Hudson Valley as well, as incumbent Republican Chris Gibson, he'll be retiring from Congress in advance of what most people believe will be a run for governor. That leaves an open seat in a slightly Republican-leaning district, and there's also some thought that some of the seats in New Jersey also could be contested depending on what happens at the top of the ticket. And Jeannie, give a little bit of a historical perspective. If there's a blowout at the top and the Democrat wins, let's say going away here, how much historically does that impact down ticket seats? And you mentioned, nationally even, that the Senate, which you would have thought at the beginning of the year, Republicans could have even added on, they could lose a bunch of seats and they could lose control.
Absolutely. I mean, if we look nationally, the only thing Republicans don't have is the White House. They control the Senate, they control the House, they control the governorships, and they control the legislatures. They have a huge bench. They've done remarkably well. And that's why this issue of who's on the top of the ticket this time around matters so much. It's not just about the presidency, it's about the coattails. And do Republicans, if they are discontented, say suburban moderates are discontented with who's on the top of that ticket, they stay home. That could have huge negative effects on the party as a whole. And that's what the concern of the Republican Party has got to be, beyond just winning the presidency.
So if it's Trump or Cruz or somebody like that on the top of the ticket, you think that could really hurt Republicans?
The fear is that could hurt Republicans. And there's even a school of thought that says if they drive Trump out of the party, he runs as an independent, that could help them because they would get more Republicans out on the independent line for Trump and more Republicans out on their line. It's all a game of math at this point, but it has huge implications going forward for both parties.
And there's also thought, though, if the other school of thought, if they're seen as bullying Trump out and he doesn't run on the independent line, those Trump supporters will stay home because they'll feel that they're shortchanged by the party. Absolutely. Dominic, Andrew, excuse me, I could just see take the Zeldin seat, which was held by Congressman Bishop just before this recent race here, one of those swing seats, very few of them left anymore. Zeldin's going to be forced, like anyone would be in his spot, to say, well, what do you think about banning all refugees or banning all Muslims coming into this country? What do you think about religious litmus tests or all the rest? He's in a box because you can be primaried. Forget about losing in a general. You could be looking at primaries here, as many of them had from Freedom Caucuses and the rest. They're in a tough spot, not just obviously in our metropolitan area, but in a lot of parts of this country.
I think that's more likely to happen outside of our area. Look, the Zeldin seat has been just such a swing seat for so many cycles now that I don't think any Republican is going to challenge Lee Zeldin for that seat. Zeldin campaigned hard on Israel. He was very supportive of Netanyahu's speech when he came to the U.S. and spoke before Congress. And I think he is going to do what a lot of Republicans have done, which is distance themselves from Donald Trump as best they can.
But they're going to be forced to answer the question, and every Republican, I think, is, you want more boots on the ground? Do you want to put us in another war, this particular case with Syria? Who the heck knows between now and November what other hot spot in the world it'll be. But that's what they're going to have to answer, and they're doing it, I think, without knowing what the public really wants. There's one thing with being angry a day after the attacks, and you have some thread in San Bernardino, maybe back to, but if it's March or it's May or whatever, and people are like, wait a minute, do I want to have another Iraq or Afghanistan on my hands with more American troops there? I'm not sure what the answer is.
Well, Lee Zeldin has not been shy at all about speaking his mind, as Andrew's alluded to. And there has been recently some conventional wisdom. There's been some consensus coming out saying, look, if you really are going to look to eradicate the people have been redefining once again for everybody the idea that an air war is only supposed to be there to support a ground movement, and so there's been some rationalizing, and even some Democrats talking about, look, we may have to if we're really going to put an end to this.
I just don't think anybody really knows what the American appetite is for more ground troops. But it's not just Zeldin seat. I can see somebody's got a
More
ISIS
ISIS bloodshed will steal
And
people's
there's so much of this,
constitutions.
Dom, especially in an election where you don't have just domestic pocketbook issues. Now, all of a sudden, people want to know, what are you going to do? How are you going to go get them? How far are you willing to go on it? And where is that line about who's allowed to be part of this country or not? Those are tough things for people to try and stick their finger up in the wind and gauge how the political winds are blowing. It's a tough one.
I couldn't agree more. I do want to go back to the professor's point, Richard. With all of these races, it's all about coattails. For example, here is a prediction. As Hillary Clinton is the Democratic nominee, we're going to see this entire movement, the same way it was done around Obama, first black president, caused enormous turnout, helped the Democrats tremendously in terms of coattails. I think you're going to see exactly that on the issue of gender, making history with the first woman president, and it could ultimately help Democrats all across the country.
That will be interesting. And I predict here, the Democrats will take back the U.S. Senate here, and that's going to be huge, where there'll be openings, I think, on the high court as well. So a lot to look forward to in the next 11 plus months.